Welcome back, Greg Silverman, CIOs and Bow Ties. This is our part 2 of our fascinating discussion with Liz Parrish. Liz is the CEO of BioViva. BioViva Sciences USA, I think is the full name of the organization, which specializes in extending healthy lifespans using gene therapy. So Liz, you brought this up in the first part. You mentioned integrated health system. Now let me take it from this perspective. Okay, I'm South African. We discussed that earlier, and there was a great movie that came out, or I thought was great. It was called Elysium. I don't know if you ever caught that movie with Matt Damon. So, and it had a bunch of South African actors in and a South African director. And so the premise of this movie was that rich and wealthy humans had moved off of Earth, which was had too much pollution, and they really had these machines. They could line these machines, and it would basically fix them up from a body perspective. You know, almost like, let's just call it immortal aging. But most of us, the poor class, the lower class, those who couldn't afford it, were stuck down below, and they just had, you know, crappy lives basically. So I get that, and then I came across, and I'm not making any analogy to what you're doing. It's just a simple thought process here. You've got the integrated health system, which I believe is maybe clinics or laboratories or something, whereby you're intending to treat patients, and I guess for some kind of fee associated with it. So that's my way of saying, and I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. The profit motive is the one that will drive the business forward. So can you explain to us the business model around integrated health systems and how it fits in with BioViva?
Oh yeah, so it's really fantastic. So BioViva, my company, is a data analysis or a bioinformatics company. You might want to call it data science. We're looking at how drugs perform in humans. And we also have research and development at Rutgers University. We're patenting technology for new delivery methods that are better for gene therapy. But we're mostly interested in how drugs perform in humans because it helps us create better patents. So we have an exclusive partnership with a company called Integrative Health Systems that, by consent, it's a health club. By consent, patients can get access to gene therapy technologies. So you're probably wondering, well, what does that cost? Well, let's just look at the market in general. Let's look at the regulated market, which is a lot more expensive than medical tourism. Today, if you had one form of congenital blindness, you could get one eye treated in the United States for $425,000 per eye. So, and if your child is born with spinal muscular atrophy, for $2.2 to $5 million, you could get a treatment. Otherwise, your child dies in 6 weeks. This model is not going to serve the population well. It is too expensive, and this is curative medicine. It's really quite absurd. Today, in integrative health systems, they can treat one patient with, let's say, just for an organ specific, for around 65, 75,000, something like that. And then the technology goes up from there, and it gets more expensive if you want to treat a whole body, but it's nowhere near as expensive as, spinal muscular atrophy. And it has, the impact of treating essentially the population's biggest unmet need. So we're hoping that by scale, by treating the biggest unmet need, we can get these therapeutic prices down. So one therapy might be cost prohibitive for most people. Let's say a therapy could be between $75,000 and $300,000. But if we were treating 10 people, it would be significantly less. It would be 20% less. If we were treating 100 people, now you're looking at 30 or 40% less. And if we were treating 1,000, now you're talking about something that more people can afford. And that's where this technology will go. And when so these integrative health systems does what's called studies, because we are getting the preliminary research out of the way in humans, not in mice, because it doesn't translate. Today, if you make it to phase 3 in clinical trials. In the US, there's 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
If you made it to phase 3, it has a 94% failure rate. Very few people put money into biotech because it is prohibitive, because you go from a mouse straight to humans, you pick your endpoints, and if you don't meet those endpoints, your drug fails, even if it was a miracle. So our idea is that we want to create this new platform where people, by consensual use, can get access to technology, help us get the first study data, so we know when we hit the regulatory pathway, we know what our endpoints are, and we're going to turn that 94% failure rate on its head. And that's where all biotech needs to go. I believe that we will get more and more people to adopt our platform. We have investors that are coming to us that have companies that they're interested in, because the company swears the drug is going to be revolutionary, but they don't want to try to raise $1 billion to get through the regulatory system. But it's more than that. Right now, because we are starting to get interest from the nonprofit sector, we have the ability right now, we're recruiting people at this moment to treat 10 people for dementia for free. Now, they do have to pay for their travel, and they have to pay for their pre and post medical testing, and it's required. But the therapy itself, I mean, that's about $100,000 saving per patient. And that's because, we have gotten nonprofits to come out and actually help fund people to get access to studies that might in fact save their life. And that's absolutely revolutionary. So we're already proving that there's interest to this platform and that it is the most ethical thing to do.
Got it. So let me just clarify one thing. So integrated health system is a health club, as you put it, and it does a lot more than just gene therapy. In fact, gene therapy is almost a very negligible part of what the health club does currently. Is that correct?
Well, it is the integrative health systems is a brokership between patients and medical doctors, is essentially what it is. People can seek out other type of technology through it, but it is specifically designed for gene therapy. It is specifically designed for gene therapy. Now, we are starting to expand in interest to different biotechnology companies that have revolutionary type technology that they want to actually get first in use human data from. And so this gives, you have to remember, today's technology is not like yesterday's technology. You alluded to the aspirin. What does the aspirin do to the body? Much of it we don't know, but we know some side effects of aspirin. We know that it could give you stomach bleeding. We know that it can have it can be hard on some of the organs in your body. And we know that one of the side effects is less pain, right? So maybe you have less of a headache, less of a dull thudding. When you're doing these new type of technologies in gene and cell technology, you're actually going specifically to where the problem is, and you're addressing it specifically. So with gene therapy, we are just upregulating a protein that you need. What are the side effects? The side effects are all the benefits of those proteins, instead of liver damage and kidney failure from drugs that you might ingest. So in cell therapy, the same thing. So with stem cells, we're using the regenerative capacity of stem cells, but integrative health systems is set up specifically for gene therapy. Now, we will be testing some of the other really advantageous therapeutics that seem to be revolutionary, but also directly address the problem rather than having off-target effects. We don't want to do anything that's not safe.
I got it. Let me interject one more time then. So what does it cost for me to join the Integrated Health System Club? And what is available for me today as far as, what kind of treatments can I get there?
So actually, it's free to join by coming to the integrative-health-systems.com website. When you sign up and get an account, you're agreeing to be part of a club for free. You're considered a healthcare investor on your own, and then whether you go through to ask for a consultation is up to you at that point. But you're part of a newsletter system. You start to get information from BioViva, what we're doing on our side with bioinformatics. You see, it's a triangle. It's a patient, it's a brokership with medical doctors, 8 exclusive medical doctors today. And then the third part of the triangle is BioViva. You will be sharing your data with us so that we can use
Okay.
it to make better drugs in the future.
Okay. Can I get gene therapy to extend the length of my telomerase?
Well, that's something you would need to talk to one of the medical doctors about.
Okay. Okay.
You
No,
would have to make sure that you were a candidate. You would have to make sure that you were part of the inclusion criteria and that you weren't part of the exclusion criteria.
right. Okay. So not knowing all that much about, how these things work, I assume that I am part of a human trial for that, right? It's because it's not a Schedule 3 approved FDA treatment.
Yeah, you're part of a human study,
Right.
and you would be
Yeah.
consenting to that. And hopefully there is something that we're addressing that you have some need for.
Yeah.
I mean, people do come to the company. I know they ask for Clotho because it is a brain enhancer. In animal studies, their cognitive ability is improved by upwards of 20%, even in Alzheimer's type animal studies. And so a lot of people are interested in that. We're interested because it protects the kidneys from chronic kidney disease, and it protects you against cardiovascular disease. So you can see that people contact for different reasons, but the whole thing is completely private. I don't know who you are. It's specifically between you and the doctor. It's all anonymous. All of your data is anonymized if you choose to share it with us. And it's a completely private platform, but I do know because of podcasts I've done and things like that, that the interest around some of these therapies are very different than maybe what their medical intended use would be for.
Okay, we'll revisit some of those points here, but again, that was my understanding and I wanted to confirm it. BioViva is a for-profit organization, and I think it does have some revenue to date. So that revenue is what now? It's from sharing its database, or how is BioViva generating its revenue?
We haven't historically shared any of the information from any data yet. There may be cases where we may want to do that because for various reasons, not just financial. And this is only if people want to share their data outside of us. So you can share your data with us. That doesn't mean that we can share it outside of our company. So one of the reasons that a company might want to share data for the right reasons is because some of the big powerhouse players in the pharmaceutical industry can certainly get in there and create faster drugs than small biotech companies can. So they might want to look for one of our endpoints and the protein associated with it so that they can create a drug that more people could afford more readily in a shorter period of time. I'm not sure if that addressed the question or not.
No, it does. So are your revenues still projected?
Oh, and where our revenue comes from. Yeah, so we don't make any revenue sharing data as of this point. So we have a new kit coming out called the Timekeeper. It's a DNA methylation kit. We've actually already had some sales, but our website has been down for the last couple months being redone, and it goes up here in early February. And it's a Timekeeper kit. It's your DNA methylation. It's the closest thing that you have to your biological age. And what's great about it, it's not like the sort of doom and gloom that some people get from their genome. You can actually modify your methylation profile by exercise, doing gene therapies, maybe participating in stem cells or senolytics. Lifestyle interventions can change it. So you're not really stuck with it. So if your biological age is 10 years older than your age this week, you might be able to work on that for a few months. And we hope you take the kit again after your intervention to show whether your intervention actually worked on it or not. That's really fantastic. Another thing we're doing that launches with the website is a BioVault, the ability for you to share your multi-omic data in one place. Now, you don't have to share it. you could just store it. Think of it as Dropbox for your medical data. You might have your telomere results, you might have your microbiome, you might just have your blood work, or you might have all of these. This gives you a place to put it in one repository. If you choose to share it with us so that we can look at it as a control to our gene therapy patients, then we think that that's super awesome, because you're sharing your data that helps the world. But you don't have to. You can just make it so, I mean, it's so cumbersome. I have a 23andMe, I've got a telomeres, I've got SpectraCell, I've got LifeLength, I've got all of these. I've got uBiome, who are out of business now, but I still have the data, and they still have the data stored. I've got it in all different places. I've got to log into a bunch of websites. I want it in one place. I want all my medical records in one place. And so that gives you the opportunity to do that. And then the third area of our revenue is analyzing these patients' data. And that's definitely the bulk of where we have generated revenue.
That's when, okay, got it. Patient comes to you for a consultation. Okay, awesome. Wow, a lot to take in. So let's do that. Let's take the information in, digest it. Let's take a short break, and when we come back with our final part, I specifically want to address designer genes and designer lifestyles. But stay tuned, and we'll be right back.